Hello great people, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are watching from. Welcome back to another interesting tutorial. So in today's tutorial, we'll be making this beautiful rose turban cap. It has an elastic at the back for easy adjustment. I would also be dropping a link on the description box on how to make this statement earring. So I have my fabric here already. So what we'll be needing for this turban, we'll start by making the turban cap before making the rose. So I'll be needing my 1-inch elastic for this. So I'll be needing my head circumference. My head circumference is 23 inches. I'm going to fold my fabric like this. I'll be needing about 14 inches from here to here. So I have my 14 inches. Remember, my fabric is on fold. I have my 14 inches. So my head circumference is 23 inches. I'm going to be adding extra 5 inches because of the elastic. So let me just cut out what will be enough for me. So what I have from this end to this end is my head circumference plus 5 inches. Then from this end to this end I have 14 inches. So I'm just going to cut that out. Remember, my fabric is on fold. I'm done with this for now. So this is for my turban cap. This is for my turban cap. What I have here, my material is on fold with this end closed. What I have here is my head circumference plus 5-inch allowance because of the elastic, and from this end to this end I have 14 inches. So I'm just going to fold this into two like so. So from this end, I'm just going to make a curve to meet this end. So it's time to fix our elastic. So this is what I have. It's time to fix our elastic. So this is the wrong side of my fabric and this is the right side of my fabric. So I'll just take this to the sewing machine. I'll take this to the sewing machine and close this end by 1 inch. I'm just going to sew. I'm just going to leave 1 inch and take it down. Just going to sew down. Let's go to the sewing machine and see what I'm talking about. Remember, this is the front of the fabric and it's still on fold. I'll come here and start sewing from 1 inch. I'm going to sew it from this end to this end. So after sewing, I'm going to fold into 2. Remember, we left 5 inch, we added 5 inch for our elastic, so 5 inches divided by 2 is 2.5. So I'm going to be marking 2.5 apart from the middle. So from the middle of the cap, I'm going to mark 2.5 inches away from the middle. So when I open it up like this, I have my 5 inches. This is where I'll be fixing my elastic. So I'm just going to pass my elastic inside the space I left for the elastic. I'm just going to pass it in like so. So after inserting my elastic, I'll be pulling it to the point where I marked for my elastic, that is the 5 inches. At this point, you need to be very careful while pulling it. As you are pulling it, be checking it with your hands so that you don't over pull it beyond the area you marked. So I just want my elastic to be just at the back of the turban. So I'm going to sew it inside like this. So I'm not going to pull it beyond the point. I'm going to leave at least 1 inch of the elastic inside before sewing. So after sewing, I'll be pulling out my elastic from the opposite end. This is the second mark that makes it the 5 inches. So I'm just going to mark and pull out my elastic from this other end. While doing this, I'll be adjusting it to get what I want. So I think this is okay. So I'm just going to sew up my elastic. So after fixing my elastic, I'll just pull out the remaining one and cut out. So we've properly fixed our elastic on our turban cap. So the next thing, I'm going to fold into 2 like so. Get my hand needle. Please make sure you double your thread very well so that it doesn't break while you are sewing. So I'm going to be making a loose gather around it. I'm just going to make a loose gather at the open end of this turban. So I'll be taking my needle and thread back to make this very firm. So I'll be picking the gathers like so with my needle. This is just like double sewing it to make it very firm. So I'll sew it twice. I'm just going to close up like this. So I'm knotting it very tight. So our turban cap is ready. So it's time to make the rose. So this is the front, see the inside looking neat. So we are going to make our rose to cover this roughness. It's time to make the rose for our turban. So let me just cut out what I'll be needing. This is my fabric by 45. So I'm just going to measure 20 inches. So I just need 20 inches by 45. Let me cut out my 20 inches. So what I have here is 20 inches by 45. So I'm going to be dividing this by 4. First I'm going to fold into 2 like this. So after cutting into 2, I'm going to fold again. So I have 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 of these. So let's go to the sewing machine and create our rose. So I have my 4 pieces cut out. So I'm going to join the 4 of them to give me one long piece. So I've joined the 4 pieces to give me one long piece. So the next I'm going to do is to bring them together, to bring it together like this, to fold my long piece together like this. So as I'm sewing up this, I'll be making a slight pleat at every 5 inches. So I'll sew like this and make a slight pleat like so. at every interval of 5 inches. So I'll be doing this till I get to the end of this long piece. The essence of this is to make this curvy and easy to bend when forming our rose. So I finished making my slight pleats. So after making my both pleats, I'm going to come down here and mark about 17 inches. After making my both pleats, I'm going to mark about 17 inches. So I'm going to take this end, I'll take it behind my marked. So it's time to make my proper pleating, it's time to form my rose. So the first step, I'm going to pleat on this first. I'll be forming some little pleats on the first layer of this circle. Just on this first layer, I'll be forming this pleats until I go around the first layer. So when I get to this point where I started, my pleating, I'm going to shift my fabric out a bit by half an inch. I'm going to shift it out a bit by half an inch and continue my pleating. I'm shifting it out to give me a room where I can pleat the other layer. So when I come here, I'm going to pleat the other layer on this. So I'm giving space for the next pleating. So I'll shift it out. Our rose is forming properly and we are almost done forming our rose. So when I get to almost the end of this, I'm going to fold this in. I'm going to fold it in like so and continue my pleating. So we're almost done with our rose. It's time to work on this. So I'm going to gather this to close this up. So I'm going to gather this together. So after gathering this together, I'm going to knot. So after doing this, I'll take my needle back. Get this first layer, the first layer I started with. So I'm going to be using this first layer to cover this roughness. So I've used this first layer to cover this roughness. So I've used the first layer to cover the roughness. So I'm just going to tack. So we're going to be using an embellishment to cover this place. You can use your cover button, anything you want to use to cover this side, but I'll be using a cover button to cover here. Let me teach you how to cover your button at home. This place, you can use anything to embellish this place. You can use a cover button, you can use bead, just any beautiful thing that you can use to cover this rough part. So as I'm going to be using a cover button, I'm going to be using this to create my cover button. So this is my fabric. I'm just going to place this on this, and so I'm going to pass my needle. I'm making sure it's smooth. After passing my needle, I'm going to use my needle to tie this like this. As I'm tying, I'm checking for the rough edges. So after tying like this, so you can see my cover button is ready. next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to place it here by using my needle to pierce. I want you to look at this part very well, so I'm going to tack this to cover. It's time to attach the rose to the turban. Time to attach the rose to the turban. So I'm just going to place this on this and tack it. So after tacking it at the middle, I'm going to bring out this first layer. That is what I'll be using to tack round on the turban cap. So I've cut out my thread. We are done with our turban. You can see this is the inside, looking very neat. So I'm just going to wear this on our mannequin to see what it looks like. Please check the description box to see how I make the matching earring for this turban. Thanks for watching, and please do not forget to give this video a like and subscribe. See you in our next tutorial.